3D. This is Biography. For January 18th, 2000, Biography with Harry Smith.
Welcome to Pulp Fiction Week. Biographies look at some of the best-selling authors of all time. Known mostly for his books, tonight's writer has also thrived in film, television, and theater. He's Sidney Sheldon. Almost everything Sidney Sheldon has done has had wide-reaching appeal. He's both an Academy Award and Tony Award winner and has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Sidney Sheldon developed his desire to break into the entertainment industry at a very young age. Yet it was only in his later years that he focused his attention on those steamy novels. By the mid-1950s, Sidney Sheldon had established himself as one of Hollywood's most productive screenwriters. And when life was good, it was very good. But show business was always unpredictable, and Sheldon longed for stability. The entertainment industry was changing, and Sidney Sheldon knew he'd have to change with it.
The movie business was going down rapidly at that point. Television was taking over and people were staying away from the movies. It was the hot thing. It was what everybody wanted to be in.
In 1963, 46-year-old Sheldon began work on a series for the child actress Patty Duke. It was a chance to try out the new medium and walk home with a steady paycheck. Situation comedies had become standard TV fare, but by the mid-60s, writers were taking chances with the format. Families like the Cleavers and the Nelsons gave way to talking horses and space aliens. Sheldon added an unlikely twist to the trials of Patty Duke's typical American family, an identical cousin from Scotland, also played by Duke.
This is my very first slumber party. You've lived in Europe too long, cousin. Time you got acquainted with some of our swinging American customs. What does one do at a slumber party? Everything but slumber.
Sheldon could have used an identical twin himself. He was writing and producing more than 30 shows a year.
I said the only way I would do the show was if I could write all the scripts. What I didn't know was that in the history of television, no one person had ever written all the scripts for a weekly show, ever.
I used to see him in the hall and catch him on the fly, and you'd start to chat with him about something, and he'd be very affable and nodding his head and smiling away and chatting with you, and suddenly he'd get a sort of a glazed look, and you see his eyes shift away, and the conversation was obviously about to come to an end, because he'd say, "Gotta go," and he'd be off. And meanwhile, he'd thought of what he needed to do with the next scene.
And Sheldon had a few more tricks up his sleeve. In 1965, while Patty Duke was still in production, Sheldon agreed to create and produce another weekly series. This one about a bachelor astronaut who finds a beautiful 2,000-year-old genie.
Thou may ask anything of thy slave, master.
That's very kind of you. I actually don't need anything at the moment.
As he did with the Patty Duke Show, Sheldon wrote nearly every episode of I Dream of Jeannie and took care of occasional troubleshooting.
If we had a problem with a scene on the set during lunch break, go to Sidney's office and tell him about it, and Sidney would sit there and listen and nod and say, okay. Faith, he'd call his secretary in. She'd come in with a steno pad, and he would get up and pace his office and become each of the characters. He'd say, Jeannie, master, you can't do so, and enact the scene, saying the dialogue. When he was finished, you'd have 2 pages of a perfect beginning, middle, and end that fit into where you wanted it, and that's how he wrote.
But not every problem was so easily resolved. During the show's first season, Sheldon's genie popped in with a big surprise.
I went to see Sidney, and I said, I have something I have to talk to you about. I really have to talk to you about this. And Sidney sat down and looked at me and said, "You're pregnant." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "No."
It was a producer's nightmare. Given Eden's skimpy costume, it would be hard to hide anything. And short of finding a new star, there was little he could do.
God bless him. You know, he went to NBC and decided that they could shoot 13 before I had the baby. And the reason they were able to shoot 13 is because Sidney was able to write the shows and produce it. He's just very efficient with his talent.
Producing one of television's top shows, Sheldon was having the time of his life and got everyone into the act.
This is Dr. Alfred Bellows.
For an episode featuring a shady fortune teller, Sheldon cast his wife, Georgia, a former actress. Even Sheldon's mother, Natalie, now divorced and remarried, got a moment in the spotlight.
Isn't this exciting? This is my third seance this week.
Natalie was a character. She was bubbly and funny and witty and just killed us all. She was like Sidney. She was so quick. You know, we'd go to lunch together. She just killed. She could have done her own series. I mean, she was hysterical. The two of them together, they could have their own act. They could do Burns and Allen. I mean, we just sit and watch them and laugh.
The set was not without creative tensions. Sheldon and actor Larry Hagman often went head-to-head.
Like any good creative team, there are differences of opinion. But whereas most of the rest of the cast would take their orders from Sidney and say, okay, this is what I have to do. I've got to make it work. Larry would challenge.
I wanted to justify everything that happened to make it real. I was so used to fighting for what I wanted the show to be. For instance, at one period of time, they had Barbara disappearing people.
If you enjoy a swimming pool so much, Master, why do you not keep it?
Well, I don't think I could explain it to my neighbors.
Oh, I will get rid of them for you.
No.
And I said, well, where do they go? They said, well, they just disappear. I said, well, you got to have them go someplace. You can't have them killed. You can't have them eaten by sharks or anything like that. It's a comedy.
Larry would make trouble because he wanted a good show out of it. And we'd have knockdown, drag-out arguments about it.
If dealing with actors was a challenge, network executives were in even greater frustration. And when NBC decided the show stars should get married, Sheldon balked.
And I said, you must understand something. A big part of the show's attraction is that there is a sexual attraction between the two of them, which is never fulfilled. The minute they get married, that's gone. And you lose a lot.
That sexual tension, it was gone. So it just, all the fantasy left it then.
We knew it was going to kill us. I mean, that's a different story, a different attitude, nothing to do. And it did. It killed us. The ratings went right down the toilet and we went off the air. No, Sidney fought like mad. Says, oh, he fought. We all fought. Don't do that.
After 5 seasons, NBC pulled I Dream of Jeannie from its fall schedule. His television career was taking a nosedive, but the 53-year-old producer had already begun work on a new project, one that would change his life forever. Sidney Sheldon was writing his first novel.
From A&E, this is Biography.
She emerged from a 2,000-year-old bottle in a puff of smoke. She enchanted a straight-laced astronaut with the blink of an eye and a nod of her head.
Yes, Master.
Yeah. She had a sort of a magic about her, so that kind of gets in your head a little bit. You know? To play clean, wholesome sexy is a tough one. And that's there with her.
I love that show. I love Jeannie.
Although she's known to millions as Jeannie, Barbara Eden's film, stage, and television career has spanned more than 4 decades.
Barbara is an actress, a consummate actress. She's got it all.
But behind the effervescent smile is a strong-willed woman who has overcome professional obstacles and personal heartbreak.
The one person in my life that I can always count on is my mother. She's one of the strongest individuals I've ever met.
I guess there are hundreds of things I would have changed in my life, but you can't worry about what's in the past. Just go forward.
In late 1964, Columbia Studios sent Barbara a TV pilot script written by Sidney Sheldon about a sexy Jeannie and a handsome NASA astronaut.
Sidney Sheldon did call me, and his first words were, "I understand you're my genie." It was the easiest job I've ever gotten.
But the good news was nearly scuttled by even more significant tidings when Barbara learned that she was pregnant.
She was so thrilled, she and Mike both, about having this little baby, that even Jeannie would have taken a back seat to this baby.
I knew I had to tell Sidney quickly, and I said, "I really have to talk to you right now." And Sidney facetiously sat down and said, "You're pregnant." And I said, "Yes." You know? He said, "No."
However, Sidney Sheldon was set on his genie and convinced the NBC brass to let Barbara begin filming as long as her condition didn't show. And on August 29th, 1965, Barbara gave birth to a son, Matthew.
Matthew was the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Just 2 weeks later, I Dream of Jeannie premiered on NBC. Featuring Bill Daly as Captain Roger Healy, Hayden Rourke as Dr. Bellows, and co-starring Larry Hagman as Captain Tony Nelson, an astronaut who, after crash landing on a deserted island, finds a very mysterious bottle.
Jeannie, I wish you could speak English.
Ja, sure, hey, Parian. Somehow I must find a way to please thee, master.
You spoke English. That's all I had to do was say I wish.
Thou may ask anything of thy slave, master.
In 1965, the premise of a beautiful genie who moves in lock, stock, and bottle with her mortal master was considered highly risque.
I tell you what, after I get a little rest, I'll pick you up and we'll go to dinner. Look who's here.
Tony? I've always prided myself on being tolerant, but... would you explain to me, what is that girl doing here?
But Barbara's unique brand of mischievous, innocent sensuality made their cohabitation acceptable to television audiences.
The quality to live in the house with him in the bottle and live together and still pull it off that it's nothing naughty going on is a great technique. It's a great charm.
A genie who obeys her master's every command seemed to be a male fantasy come true. But the battle of the sexes repartee between the lead characters made the show equally popular with women.
And it's that odd master-genie relationship where she seems subservient to him, but yet she has all the powers. So it's an interesting yin-yang between the male-female in this particular relationship.
You've got to get out of here right now, and I mean it.
Oh, I'm happy here with thee.
Oh, but Jeannie, I hate to do this, but I wish you to vanish. Where'd I go wrong?
Thou hast set me free. That means that I am free to please thee, and I am going to please thee very much.
No.
At 31 years of age, Barbara appeared to have it all. A loving husband, a beautiful baby, and a hit television series. But while Jeannie could simply blink away her troubles, Barbara Eden would have to face hers head-on. By 1967, graphic images of the bloody conflict in Vietnam dominated the airwaves. For many Americans, fantasy-based series like Batman, Bewitched, and I Dream of Jeannie provided a welcome escape. In its second season, I Dream of Jeannie was filmed in color and seen each week by more than 20 million viewers across the country. Although the chemistry between the members of the ensemble cast was undeniable, Barbara remained the key to the show's success.
That show could have never, ever gone on if it wasn't for Barbara. With anyone else, it couldn't happen. No one knows how brilliant that note is that she does. It was innocent, it was charming, it was lovely.
Oh, master, you were imagining things. Oh, please, may we go with Major Healy?
Yes. All right. Oh, you're going to make a beautiful girl very happy. But not until Saturday night. Saturday night, you won't forget this. I won't forget this.
Oh, master, I am so excited. I'm so excited. Just think, we are going to a nightclub together. A nightclub. Oh, my goodness. I must go immediately to Paris and select my gown.
She is a terrific comedian. She was so energetic and fun, and she seemed to just be like embracing life, basically. For her to be carefree and for him to be kind of uptight, I think that's where you get the comedy and the chemistry.
Did you not enjoy yourself?
How can you ask me that?
Well, it was very simple. Did you not have fun?
You better come up with a very good explanation, young lady.
Explanation.
Yeah.
For what? What have I done?
Oh, all right, you gonna play that game with me? Go on, get in your bottle.
Oh, Master, you have no reason to be angry with me. I was angry with you, but I decided to forgive you.
In 1967, Barbara was nominated for a Golden Globe as Best Female Star. She became even more popular when a line of Jeannie merchandise flooded the market. In an attempt to keep the show fresh, producers started casting major stars such as Sammy Davis Jr. in guest spots. Even Barbara's husband, Mike Ansara, got into the act when he played the evil Blue Jinn. The producers also spiced up the series by allowing Barbara to play Jeannie's alter ego, her conniving and sexy twin sister.
I don't know what your master is like, but mine's a drag. Oh, not my Major Nelson. He is a wonderful man.
So this was Jeannie's dark side, to have the sister come in from time to time and mix things up. But it gave you a chance to see Barbara Eden do something a little bit different than just be sweet little Blinky Jeannie.
Oh, Master, I'm so happy to finally see you.
What's gotten into you anyway?
Oh, nothing. Don't I always kiss you when you come home at night?
Yeah, well, not that way.
What a waste.
And in 1969, what appeared to be an innocent invitation for Barbara to appear on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In turned into a full-blown controversy. The show's producers decided it was time to unveil Barbara's never-before-seen navel to the American public.
And NBC, suddenly, who had never even thought about it before, went, no, her navel will never be seen, you know. But I understand they had a meeting with all the suits, and all they talked about was my belly button.
NBC won the war, and Barbara's navel remained coyly concealed. And by the 5th season, the premise of Jeannie and Major Nelson's unconsummated love affair had played itself out. The sexual tension that had fueled the long-running series ended when Jeannie finally married her master. Much to Barbara's dismay, I Dream of Jeannie was canceled in 1970.
I was very depressed when the show was canceled. Very depressed. It's a big change and shock to your system. These are the people you spend most of your life with. And it's very depressing. And you never see them again exactly that way.
In 1985, she returned to the role that had made her famous and starred in I Dream of Jeannie 15 years later. But when Larry Hagman was unavailable to reprise his role, Wayne Rogers stepped in as Major Anthony Nelson.
I think she enjoyed coming back to it. She's nobody's fool, and she knows exactly what she's about. So she did it because she was having fun.
Barbara's always been proud of the fact that she had a series that brought a lot of happiness and joy to people over the years. And so, rather than reject it, she's embraced it.
Barbara slipped back into her harem costume, this time with her navel in full view, and Bill Daly returned to his role as Roger Healy.
I was doing a scene, and Barbara came on, and she had, God, just the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. She had the same outfit, and she looked the same, and I really couldn't go on. I just kind of took my breath and went, wow.
The TV movie earned high ratings, proving the ageless beauty's immense appeal. And although Barbara Eden had endured a series of professional and personal heartaches, in the eyes of the American public, she was forever the sprightly and youthful Jeannie. Throughout the decade, Barbara continued working on the small screen, appearing in more than a dozen made-for-television movies and yet another Jeannie installment. And in 1993, she won critical praise for her dramatic portrayal of a therapist with psychic powers in Visions of Murder. Since its cancellation in 1970, I Dream of Jeannie has continued to run throughout the world in syndication. And in 1994, the series premiered on the youth-oriented Nick at Night cable station, introducing Jeannie to a whole new audience.
What's interesting, though, is a lot of shows, and Jeannie is one of them, might not have been a big cultural icon at the time, but by being seen every day by new generations of people, the show's legend begins to build and build by repeated exposure.
She's been on the air for more than 30 years without an interruption. Generation after generation has grown up watching I Dream of Jeannie.
In 1998, there was yet another resurgence in Barbara's popularity. At last. When the star appeared as Jeannie in a very creative ad campaign.
Oh, this will never do. Whoa.
Introducing the first luxury SUV that doesn't ride like a truck. The RX 300, like no other vehicle or value on Earth.
Well, hello there. You know, actors are always defined by one role, it seems. And if I'm going to be defined by a role, that's a nice one. It's a very good one, I think.
Worked on it hard, and it changed my life, of course.
Our young spaceman finds all this a terrible hardship.
I Dream of Jeannie worked its magic on audiences and became a top 10 hit. In its second season, the series was shot in color.
I enjoy acting with Larry more than anyone I've ever worked with, and his comedic timing was flawless. In comedy, in particular, timing is so important, and Larry and I seem to be on the same page in that respect. It was always so easy. It was never, I never felt like I was acting with Larry.
You have been working too hard, and it is not good for you.
Jeannie.
It is no use talking about it, Master.
I'm not going to enjoy anything, and I'm not going to let you do this. I'm going to put my foot down.
The show worked because of the people in it. Barbara was wonderful, and Bill Daly, who was just the funniest guy on the show. And I was essentially playing a straight man.
Good evening, Master.
Larry was a perfectionist. He worked tirelessly to get every aspect of his role right, no matter how frivolous the script.
When I Dream of Jeannie was aired every week, we had to sit quietly and watch, and you couldn't talk till commercials. And at commercial breaks he would go, and I could have done this, and we should have done it from that angle, and I could put another little piece of physical shtick in there. And he was really obsessed with this wonderful opportunity.
The scripts were very repetitious, and I was getting frustrated, and I let it be known that I was frustrated. Everybody thought I was crazy.
Sometimes he'd just tear the script up. He was fighting. He never wanted more money. He just wanted better scripts. And I think a couple of times they talked about getting rid of him. And when I heard Barbara just said no.
Meanwhile, on the set of I Dream of Jeannie, the free-spirited Larry always kept a bottle of champagne nearby.
He wasn't overt about it, and it never reflected in his work.
But by now, Larry Hagman had become addicted to alcohol. By the end of its 5th year, the frothy escapades of I Dream of Jeannie felt wildly out of step with a country debating free love in Vietnam. NBC executives insisted that the characters of Jeannie and Major Nelson marry.
And of course that ruined all the kind of sexual tension between Jeannie and I, and the show just dumped.
In May of 1970, I Dream of Jeannie was canceled. The show had made Larry Hagman a star, and at age 38, he was ready to move on. But when his next sitcom, The Good Life, quickly tanked, Larry realized that establishing an identity outside of Jeannie was a tall order.